This is the thought that God inspired into my heart today. That if you want to find the right mate, you need to first of all become the right mate. To find the right mate, you need to become the right mate. All of us human beings are magnets, living magnets. And you don't attract what you want in life, you attract who you are. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So, it all begins with vision. There's a game that I like to play. I read it in a book many years ago, tried it, and it was an exciting experience. A day in my life, 5 years from now. You see, because marriage is something that you go into for the future. Your decision today concerning who to marry is going to impact your life 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Okay? So it's about the future, vision, and that capacity to see the future before it happens is a function of wisdom, which is a function of maturity. Okay? The more accurately you can decipher the future, the more accurate your decisions will be today. If in your vision of the future, you see yourself becoming a CEO, that vision will help you to recognize the opportunities for becoming one, will help you to recognize the people that will help you to become one. Okay? Vision is the key to provision. You see, there's money everywhere, money flowing around us. But most people don't know because they can't see it. If your mind is filled with poverty, you will not recognize the opportunities for prosperity. You will only identify with opportunities for poverty. If your mind is filled with prosperity, you recognize the opportunities for prosperity. So it all begins with you as a person and your vision of the future. So this game which I play, I write out what the date would be exactly 5 years from now, and then I describe how I would wake up, what the room would look like, okay, uh, what my wife would look like, what our children would look like, uh, when I get out of the house, of course, what the house would look like, the kind of car I would drive to work, what work or office would look like, and so on. It's a fantastic thing to do because the best time to shape or control tomorrow, it is while it is still in fluid state. And you can do that in your imagination. Today was set yesterday in our imaginations or in some people's imaginations. Because if you don't have a dream of the future for yourself, you will have to live somebody else's dream or vision. Okay? So you have that vision of your future. And that vision is what will define the kind of a person you should marry. But then the kind of a person you should marry in that vision will depend on the kind of a person you are going to be. Okay? The kind of a person you are going to be will determine the kind of a person you should marry now. You have to define the future first. It's interesting how many people never think beyond today. So they just see someone, he looks handsome, she looks beautiful. Oh, he has a good job. He has a good job. Will he have a good job? Oh, he has a fine car. He's very comfortable. Will he be comfortable? We're talking about 10, 20, 30, 40 years of your life. Okay? So that's why I'm saying you need to know who you are now. You need to know who you are going to be then. And then that can influence the kind of a person that you need to marry. When you look at that picture of your future, the most important factor in that picture is you. You in that picture is the magnet that will attract everything else that you see in that picture. Every human being is a magnet. So, who you are going to become will determine the kind of people you attract. If that vision will ever be fulfilled, My encouragement to you, become the person in the vision. If in the vision you see yourself becoming a CEO, of course, everything else will adjust to that standard. The kind of a house you will live in, the cars you will drive, the kind of relationships you will have, the people who will be your friends will all be defined by who you are in the picture. So if you want to attract everything else that is in that picture, you have to first of all grow to the size of that vision. And that brings us back to this issue of you becoming the right mate first. Maturity, wisdom. Now, talking about maturity, I want to use Luke chapter 2, verse 52 as a template because it describes how Jesus matured. Luke chapter 2, verse 52. It says, and Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and was in favor with God and men. Four dimensions to his life where Jesus grew and experienced development. One, he grew in wisdom. That talks about his mental development. Okay? He got training. He developed his sense of judgment. He developed his thinking. He acquired skills. And Jesus did. He was a carpenter. His dad was a carpenter. His dad groomed him, trained him, and he became a carpenter. Mark chapter 6, verse 3 says that people looked at Jesus and said, is this not the carpenter? And when I say carpenter, don't just think that I'm talking about a furniture maker. The Greek word translated carpenter there is tekton, which implies more of a project manager. Because a woodworker in the days of Jesus would go into the forest, fell the trees, carry them or pull them into the city, cut them, and use them either to construct furniture or to build houses. So he was more of a project manager. So Jesus developed skill, developed expertise. So he grew in wisdom, he grew in stature. That means he grew physically. He was in favor with God, talks about his spiritual development. He grew spiritually, he matured spiritually. I mean, to the extent that God, the Father, said, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. And then he was in favor with men, talks about his social development, his emotional development, his ability to relate with other people. So, my challenge today is this. If you want to attract or to recognize the right kind of a person for you to marry, you need to grow, you need to mature, you need to become the kind of a person that will attract the ideal kind of person. In 1 Corinthians 13, verse 11, Paul the Apostle said, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. He said, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. That's maturity. In Galatians chapter 4, Paul the Apostle spoke about someone who got a great inheritance but did not have the capacity to manage it because of immaturity. Galatians 4, verses 1 and 2. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, does not differ at all from a slave, though he is master of all. I want to say this to you. Everything that you need to fulfill your destiny is already provided. The person you are going to marry is alive already. Because I'm speaking to mature people. It's not your prayer and your fasting now that will cause God to remember that you actually need somebody to marry. And then now he will create the person and put the person in his or her mother's womb. And then you will wait 20 to 25 years before you marry. Your husband is around. Your wife is around. We only need recognition. Am I right? God will never position beyond your reach what is yours. The person is around. Hallelujah. Okay? So he says he is master of all. But as